All right, so this question came from James. I posted it because he actually sent me an email asking me this, and I told him I'd be happy to answer his question on Hump Day Hangout because I think it could help some other people as well. So I'm going to read this. He says, my next door neighbor runs a tree trimming business. He and his wife had it set up where she would receive the calls and then dispatch them to the crew, mostly made up of his family members. She now refuses to answer business calls, leaving him, his kids, and family losing money in professional relationships. They have a GMB, as I suggested it, and a Facebook as their website. From what I remember, you also, and he's saying you, meaning me, also operate in the tree trimming business, among others, in Northern Virginia. I recall a bit about how you set up the business to do the call automation. If you have a moment, could you give me a brief overview and some contacts to help me help them set up such a system? Yeah, and so I thought this was a good question because, guys, you know, if you're running a lead gen business, I've recommended this many times that you don't direct calls directly to your service providers unless they have a dedicated, you know, call receptionist that's going to be answering the calls. And the reason why is because anybody that has been in this business for any amount of time, whether you're a business owner, right, or you're a consultant or an agency owner, or you're providing leads to other business owners, you know that as soon as you start getting assets ranked in Google, you're going to start receiving spam and solicitation calls from every marketing and advertising company under the sun. Primarily, if you're in the contracting industries, Yelp and Home Advisor. You're going to get absolutely hammered with solicitation calls from Yelp and from Home Advisor. If no matter what business you're in, Yelp is an unapologetic spammer. They're relentless. But Home Advisor, if you're in any sort of contracting business, they're relentless as well. And no matter how many times you tell them to go shit in their hat, they continue to call. And so part of the reason I tell people not to direct lead generation calls from direct to a company that's buying the leads from them is because they'll end up having a ton of wasted time on the phone rejecting solicitation calls, and it will annoy your service provider, right? And so I learned a long time ago to set up a call center. Way back in 2012 is when I started using answerconnect.com. There are others out there, guys, but this is the company that I've been using since 2012. I'm happy with them. You know, there is an expense involved, there's no doubt, but this is a really good answering service. They're really easy to work with. You can jump on the phone with them. You can send in your call scripting via a Microsoft Word doc, or you can do it via Google Docs, whatever. But you can also jump on the phone with them and walk through like how you want calls to be answered, what the scripting should be, if it's multiple choice options and things like that for like questions that they would ask the caller. They're really helpful. I can't say enough good things about Answer Connect. I've had some issues in the past where something has gone wrong and I've jumped on the phone with them and I've been able to get it resolved, and they've credited my account because I've been a long time member, subscriber or whatever. So I'm just telling you, it's a really good service. And the benefit of this is that they answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they'll take the lead information based upon your scripting, and then they can either patch valid lead calls directly through to the business, or you can opt. So that's what they, that's the patch through service where they'll actually transfer the call. So first they'll take the lead information in case the call gets disconnected, or in case when the transfer is made, in case the business owner cannot, or whoever's answering the phone for the business cannot answer the phone at that time, they don't lose that lead, right? So they take the lead information first, and then they'll do a live transfer if that's what you opt for. For about 90% of my businesses that I generate leads for, including my own now, my real estate business that I was just talking about at the beginning of this, I set up an Answer Connect call center. I just have another sub account that basically asks all the callers that call in that say they might have a property to sell all the questions that I need to know. So I don't ever answer any damn calls. All I do is get the lead information. So for about 90% of my businesses that I do generate leads for, the call comes in, Answer Connect asks them a series of questions. If it's for contracting stuff, they ask them who the caller's name is, their phone number, their email, if they want to provide that, a second callback number, the best time to call back, a brief description of the job, and depending on what type of business it is, sometimes they ask for the address, the service, where is this job going to be performed, and then they get the address. And then from there, they end the call and say, for about 90% of the businesses that I generate leads for, they'll say, okay, thanks. We've got your information. We're going to forward it to our estimator to call you to set up a free estimate. You should receive a call shortly. And then from there, they actually email me a copy of the lead, and then they email the lead information plus text the lead information to my contractors. So my contractors get it via email and via text, and I get a copy of it via email so that I can track the leads that I'm generating for their business, so that I can make sure I'm getting paid. So that's the best. I mean, honestly, it's really, really good, because one of the other things is a lot of the business owners, if they're working business owners or working contractors, in other words, if they're actually out in the field doing the job, like a plumber, for example, might be out fixing a sink or something, and if the phone rings and the call was going directly to them, they can't answer the phone. Well, what happens to that lead? That lead, a lot of the times, is going to call the next person in line because they didn't get an answer. They're not going to. Most people aren't going to leave a voicemail message. They want something done. They want it done now. That's why they're picked up. They went to Google and found a provider and called it. So that's part of the, as soon as I realized that I was missing a lot of calls, my lead gen calls were getting either unanswered by the contractors because they were busy, or they were getting unanswered because the contractors got tired of answering the phone because of solicitation calls always blowing up their phone. Once I learned about setting up a call center, at first when I did it, it was kind of painful because I was new in my lead gen business, and it was $500 a month to set this up. And I thought, oh shit, I'm going to lose $500 a month in revenue. But the exact opposite happened. I set the call center up, and I instantly got a 30% revenue increase, even after the expense of the call center. And that was because now all the calls started to be screened. Only valid leads would get sent to my contractors. Then my contractors would call them back, very quickly after they received the lead. And they would usually, and so essentially we started closing more leads, or getting more leads that were turned into closed sales. And so my revenue actually went up 30%. Now, I can't say that that's going to be the same for all of you, but it is a really, really good service. You don't have to use Answer Connect. You can just find an answering call center, an answering service that will do that something similar. Set it up, and I promise you're going to have better results for your lead generation business. Or if you're a business owner and you're tired of getting shitty, especially contractors, if you guys are tired of getting calls that are getting, where you're getting hammered with solicitation calls, which happens all the time, set up a call center. And that's, that way you're only getting notified when it's a valid lead that's calling you. And you don't have to pay a full-time employee to do that. You can just pay them based upon your usage, your call volume. So I thought that was a great question. So thank you, James.